I'm 33, and I grew up in a family that has been Mormon for generations, clear back to pioneer days on all sides. I'm the sixth of 7 children, and I've always pretty naturally been kind of the caretaker and problem solver in a family that has a lot of struggles, divorce, and other problems. Mormon families aren't exempt from problems, of course. When I was growing up, I was probably 5 years old when I had my first kind of crush on a boy. I remember liking a boy in kindergarten. That carried over to when I was 8 or 9. I remember having crushes on kids at school, but also really falling into being hyper aware that other boys were more interested in sports, and I was kind of different. I wanted to do art and music. I cared a lot about people's feelings. So I was aware very early on that I was very different from the other boys around me, and became very conscious of hiding those parts of myself that would maybe lead them to ridicule me or make fun of me. I had a lot of friends in school still, but I was kind of always naturally the guy that would seek people out to kind of solve their problems. So growing up, when my family started to develop more problems, I kind of naturally became the problem solver for all of them as well. And that kind of became my big distraction for years. As long as I could focus on solving everybody else's problems, then I didn't have to kind of focus on my own issues. And so that became my, my Band-Aid, if you will, for a long time, for a lot of years for me. In high school, I became hyper aware of having same-sex attraction feelings for the guys around me, and again, I still had a lot of friends and I was doing things that I liked, but I was really the problem solver. I keep touching on that. I would ask out girls that I felt bad for. I was kind of a delicate balance of trying to be friends with guys, even guys that I was attracted to, but still worried that they would find out my secrets, you know, those types of things. Things at home weren't going great. I did end up going on a mission, and the mission was a pretty difficult time for me. But I was a really faithful Mormon kid. I read the Book of Mormon like 12 times, and I was praying constantly. I was teaching people about the church and bearing my testimony every fast Sunday, and going to the temple anytime that I could. I was really devoutly LDS and really believed it really strongly. Yet I started getting a lot of internal pain over the fact that I wasn't able to cure myself. It didn't matter how many problems I solved or how much I prayed and begged for release. The same-sex attraction feelings never went away. After my mission, which was a pretty tough time, I went to a therapist for the first time and started talking about what it meant to have same-sex attraction feelings. I was really frightened of the word gay, and therapists didn't really help. It didn't really add much. I talked to a couple of bishops about it, but they just kind of gave the counsel to focus on the Lord, focus on church service, that things would be okay. In time, right after my mission, I met Megan, who we married 6 years later. It took a long time for me and her to connect paths the right way. But after I was finishing with college and she had come off her mission, we were living in the same area, and I held hands with her for the first time, first person I'd ever held hands with. We kissed for the first time, first person I'd ever kissed. And things didn't feel right, but I felt like maybe we can make this work. I was in love with her heart and soul. She's just an amazing human being. And I told her one day during a really difficult conversation that I had same-sex attraction, and it was incredibly hard. But I reassured her that I felt like as long as I stayed active and true to church teachings, that things would be okay. We did get married in the temple, and we had 2 children. And over time, as I continued serving in church callings and priesthood responsibilities kept increasing, I got more and more unhappy. I was praying more often for release. I was seeking out counselors more frequently. I was getting very depressed. I got overweight. And I was constantly unhappy and distancing myself from people who cared about me. I had a younger sister who came out of the closet at one point during that period, and my family had some pretty strong reactions to her, and I really didn't support her very well during that time. I felt like, oh, she needs to try as hard as I am to cure herself and to be better. But it was a really miserable time for a while. After my wife became pregnant with our second child, is when I fully started using the word gay. And I talked to her and told her that I felt like I was unhappy and things weren't going great, that I really needed to kind of figure this side of myself out, or that I was just going to live an unhappy life and be depressed. I was going to be a terrible father and a terrible husband, etc. We separated and remained in the same house for a period of time until the baby was born. We ended up relocating and moving into different households. And we had a really rough patch for a while. I went to therapy and I started talking to friends and figuring out what the gay community was like, figuring out what it meant for me to be gay, and just kind of healing all of those old wounds in myself. And it took a couple of months, but all of the old feelings of depression and anxiety and pain really started resolving. I feel like I was more authentic in my relationships with my family members, my friends, and the people who really cared about me stuck around, and there was a few people who did not. Today, it's been 15 or 16 months since I came out. I am feeling happy and confident and amazing and wonderful every day of my life. I have two beautiful children, and I maintain a really close relationship with Megan and with most of my family members. I don't go to church any longer, but I do feel very positive about people in the church who are in my life. And I don't feel bad about my heritage or the time that I spent serving in the church. I do wish that I had been able to be shown examples of what it's like to have positive gay male role models growing up and to be shown what healthy gay relationships look like. I really believe that if I had had those opportunities growing up, then I would not have followed the same path that I had. I would not advocate for any gay man to marry a straight woman or vice versa. I think ultimately it leads to a lot of pain for both parties. But I do feel that for gay people who are able to come to terms with themselves and surround themselves with people that I love, I really believe that they can lead happy, positive, amazing lives. And as far as where you stand with the church and with your family relationships, I think that's kind of an individual decision. But for me, coming out, besides becoming a father, coming out has been the best thing I've ever done.